And this is what I love about Asia. I see that that curiosity is omnipresent, and people really are so thirsty and so hungry for continuous learning. Leaders who push themselves to become more empathetic, to really understand difference, other cultures, other ways of managing, of leading, and really being open to challenge themselves, become more successful. When we believe that our country, our culture, which is usually dominant, certainly it is in your case, you are from the US originally, I'm from Spain. These are countries that have been big powerhouses, and thinking that it's our way or the highway only make things worse. So we need to be more humble, and we need to be less judgmental, and understand that there is so much that we need to learn from people in places like Cambodia, for example, or Vietnam, or Costa Rica, or Panama, or you name it. So it's about putting what we know on a side and learning and rewire our mindset to become, again, more curious and more into asking the right questions to really learn.
So this is Dan of Vagabond Awake, and today I feel lucky to have Jose Romero as a guest here. Jose is an executive level leadership development coach who's traveled all over the world extensively to 56 countries, but or maybe more importantly, he's lived, worked, and been educated as an expat in 10 different countries. And I've asked Jose today to help us understand how an expat's curiosity and knowledge about their new culture is the secret to successful integration into a new culture for expats, whether socially or in the work environment. For example, Jose works with executive level experts. But Jose, you were born in Malaga in southern Spain, but what countries have you lived, studied, and worked?
Thank you, Dan. And I am the one feeling lucky. I know you have a lot of followers. I've been one of them for many years now. So some of the decisions I made and moving from country to country as a resident come from source of knowledge. So really, really appreciate that. And you're doing a great work. Going to your question, yes, I was born in Malaga in southern Spain, and around the age of 20 or so, many years ago, I decided to leave and explore, and I went to Belgium, to Leuven, which is the most prominent university town, and that led to going to other places. I've lived in countries as far as from my home country, as far as Australia. Been to Montenegro, living there, Croatia, Ireland, the UK, Malaysia, Singapore, Ireland. So yes, a variety of countries from across continents. And my motto is that we should explore life not only by theory and reading books and articles, and of course watching channels like yours, but also thinking less and doing more, and actually going to the ground and experience it by ourselves, right? Because sometimes we are told this or that based on other people's experiences, and that's great. But at the end of the day, we need to be the designers, the architects of our own life, and go out there with explorer hat and really put ourselves into the situation where we get to stretch and to get out of our comfort zone to continue learning.
Yeah, that's great. And so it sounds like at a young age, can you remember what created that love and curiosity for immersing yourself in each culture that you found yourself in?
That's a great question. So there are different factors. Number one, I'd say, is that curiosity that you've mentioned earlier. So it's the hunger to understand what goes on in other parts of the world. How do other people negotiate, depending on their culture and the hierarchy levels, and the fact that they have different priorities in life, different cultural backgrounds. So it's really that love for otherness, anything that and everything that was and that is different to my origins. And I do love Spain. Malaga is a beautiful country where there are a lot of expats considered one of the places on Earth with the highest quality of life. But yet, it's where I grew up, where I was born, and there is more beyond that, right? The world is the more we travel, the smaller the world becomes, isn't it?
That's true. So I've noticed that some cultures are a little harder to adapt to than others, and it's not the same for everyone, which culture is easier for them. Does it depend on your home country culture or even your professional background? What makes that adaptation vary?
So look, first of all, yeah, given our kind of culture of origin, and despite the fact that people like yourself, like me, like many others who are global souls, global birds, we always have an influence, right, based on how we were raised by our parents. So definitely the mother culture matters when it comes to choosing, but it also depends on which stage of life we're in. So, for example, earlier in my career, when I first started going overseas to study at an undergrad and a postgrad master's level, but also to work and to acquire more experience until I became a global senior director eventually, and then an entrepreneur. It changed. At the beginning of the career, it was more about countries that offered opportunities to acquire more of a corporate experience with talent from all over the world. So, countries like Singapore, like Switzerland, where the competition is brutal, where you have so many multinational companies and there are opportunities and the unemployment rate is low. Countries where different languages are spoken. Yeah, if we think of countries like Belgium, for example, the first one I went to live in, they have everybody speaks 3 or 4 languages there from childhood. The same can apply to Singapore in many cases, if we include the dialects, not only the languages. Switzerland, the same, is a country with 4 official languages. And on top of that, pretty much everyone speaks English. Then, apart from the opportunities for growth, it's safety. That's also something that matters to me, being in a place where I don't have to be looking left and right because there is a real danger in terms of criminality and so on. And then now more and more over the years, what became more important for me are countries with good weather. And that's why my wife and I are back in Southeast Asia. And also people, genuine hospitality, friendly people. So for me, it would be easier to adapt, for example, in a country like Costa Rica, as compared to a city like Zurich, right? Where people tend to be, I don't want to generalize, but there is a tendency of people being more focused on the business, the money making, career growth, and there's more individualism. Whereas in a country like, for example, Cambodia or Costa Rica, family values, spending time with friends, a lower pace of life are a priority, right? So this is where I have been moving towards more recently.
When you're thinking about moving to a new country, what are the best ways to learn about a new culture? And can people do that before they arrive in a new country or once they arrive or both? And also, how do you usually decide, which country you're going to want to live in?
Okay, well, those are tough questions. The first one is about, first of all, when I picked a country to live in, I consider some of the parameters, some of the factors that I just explained. And also, there was a contrast, for example, when moving first from Ireland to Australia, right? They are both Anglo-Saxon countries, but they are so far apart. The culture is very different. The weather, the pace. So by contrast, I moved to countries that were very different, one after another. Another example is from moving from Singapore, a tropical country, to Zurich, a country up in the mountains where it can get pretty cold in winter time. And sometimes it was about getting that globe and looking at the map with my wife and say, okay, where are we gonna put the egg nest next in the next phase of our life, depending on the priorities, right? And regarding the other part of the question, could you repeat it then?
Do you pick it in advance and then study a culture, or do you wait till you arrive? That sort of thing.
Thanks. So definitely the due diligence is important. It's about watching, documentaries, your YouTube videos, and reading, speaking to locals, through our network, understanding who lives there, if we've got any friend, and then have an exchange to have a better understanding. Usually we have been in the country before we made the decision to move, but that was not the case, for example, with Switzerland and Australia. I moved to those countries without having ever been there, even on holiday, right? And it was a pretty big move from Ireland to Australia, and from Australia to from Singapore to Switzerland. So definitely doing the research prior to it, looking at the right information, the videos, experience from other people, and then really what matters most is, as I said earlier, packing and and making the decision and going there, because definitely there are unexpected things that happen, no matter how much we have researched and how many times we've been there on holiday. Because this is the other thing. I know many people, especially executives, who they say, I've traveled the world, I've been here and there. Okay, and what is it that you really know about the country? And in many cases, the sad truth is that they have been to the country for 2-3 days to deliver a workshop or to go for a training or for a big corporate meeting, and they went to that international hotel chain. From there to the airport, they spoke to the same usual suspects, and they really didn't have the chance to extend and to really go deeper and immerse themselves in the culture. That's why traveling for business purposes or to go on holiday and living in a country are two very different experiences.
Yeah, great point. You need to go long enough to really get a feel for a place, and to really get a feel for the culture. So you've recently written a leadership book. Can you briefly tell us about what that's about?
So yes, that book is about, it's called Living and Leading with Curiosity, and is a tool that will help people, because it has not been published yet. It will be published internationally in different languages in all the platforms.
Yeah.
The aim for which I wrote the book is to help people get out of their mental frameworks that they've been using to understand life and get beyond what they know. So getting uncomfortable, being more curious, challenging their own beliefs so that they can better adapt to our world that keeps changing, that has become more globalized over the last 25 years or so, especially. Yeah. Although we see some comebacks in terms of protectionism here and there, but I think it's unstoppable. I mean, we're already so mixed. There are so many different people that love traveling, and that, it is your case and mine, who have couples who are, in our case, Asian. So that kind of cultural exchange enriches our lives, and I think this is not going to stop. So the best way to really digest this is by reading this kind of books that help people understand that there are different realities beyond our own bubble, our own culture, our own province, and this is really what can bring amazing growth, personally, professionally, from a leadership angle, and also when it comes to happiness, right? And I understand that for certain people that may not work, that lifestyle like the one you have may not work, and that's fine, right? But at least understanding that there is life beyond our own little bubbles and the way we think, getting that exposure.
Yeah, good.
And it is through coaching growth and through different experiences that I have had by supporting leaders that I also I'm able to to bring those examples to life in the book for people to have different reference points.
Yeah, that's great. That's kind of like taking it, if you will, getting the rubber down on the road. So what are like examples of things you've learned in living in 10 different countries, some takeaways?
Thank you. The first one that comes to mind is more generic. It applies to all of us, regardless of our roles and the nature of our profession. And this is the fact that sometimes we underestimate the power of reverse culture shock. So that means someone that has lived overseas in a different country, they come back to their own culture, and then they get a punch in the face because they see that it is difficult to adapt back in their own home countries.
So I've noticed that some people seem to adjust to a new culture more quickly and completely. when they spend time with locals from their adopted countries, whereas other expats hang out mostly or almost exclusively with expats from their home country. How does that choice affect success?
I always say that it is natural, it's human for us to try to find a circle where we feel a sense of belonging. And that at the beginning, when we are new to a culture, to a country that adopts us, that is our hosting country, it can be a little bit challenging before we make a solid network and we start to know the people and so on, and become more familiar. So it is very natural to have the tendency to mingle with people that speak the same language that we speak, and so on. But I can tell you an example of the first time I moved overseas 20 plus years ago to Belgium as a student, as an Erasmus exchange student of international business, where I had, for the first time in my life, exposure to classmates that were from countries as far as China, Lithuania, Turkey, and whatnot, and the local Belgians too, for a year. And it's when I realized that the fellow Spaniards that were in other departments studying different disciplines in the university were mingling pretty much only with Spaniards. So I hung out a couple of times with them at the beginning. They invited me. So of course, they're fellow Spaniards, right? I was very young. I didn't know pretty much anyone there in Belgium, only a couple of people, a couple of Belgians. And so I realized that I did not feel comfortable. And there was something in the back of my mind telling me, well, this is not where you should be. You haven't moved from Spain to Belgium to spend time with Spaniards. You are here to practice your languages, to have a better understanding of the culture and make the most out of your year here. So stay away, right, from those circles of people that are only mingling with, very homogeneously only among Spaniards. And this definitely was a big success factor for me to thrive in that new culture, make friends from all over the world that eventually visited me in the different countries where I've lived. I had the chance to visit them. We still keep in touch in many cases. So yes, this is one example. Right? But again, I understand that it is not always easy, especially there is a language barrier, right? When I'm living overseas, and I can tell you now here in Southeast Asia, I have, in the last, let's say 6 months or so, I have tried European food maybe 3-4 times in 6 months, not more. Because again, I'm here and the best food you can find here is the local and is the Southeast Asian food. Why would I go to a restaurant to look for Spanish food, right? If I'm craving for something Spanish, I can cook it myself. Yeah. But I am more into adapting and do what the locals are doing. Plus, it's much more interesting. Again, the diversity of ingredients, the spices, it's a totally different world. And since I'm here, I need to do this. When I'm in Spain, I go for the local food. If I'm in Germany, I will go and eat those bratwursts, right? So wherever you go, do as locals do. Again, it takes time to adapt. It doesn't happen overnight.
So for those watching this interview who want to reach out to you, whether about your executive leadership program or more about what you teach, how do they find you?
Thank you. So they can go on LinkedIn. That's the only social media platform I'm in for over a decade. And yeah, look up my name, Jose M. Romero. They can also write me an email to my email address, right? So I will pass it on so that you can put it there. But basically, I mean, in the comments. So yeah, I'm open to support people that want to either penetrate the career ladder in a different latitude, right, different part of the world, or people who want to grow as leaders through the art of coaching, which is my bread and butter. And again, it's about listening, it's about asking the questions. What you're doing today with me is what I usually do. I tend to ask the questions, and then from there create a space for them to reflect and to see what they can do better, right? We are all making mistakes. We are growing as we go, but we need to be courageous to understand that, again, there is life beyond what we know, and that we can always improve and help others improve.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you coming on the channel and sharing your story. It's a unique story, and it's fun to hear about your life. So, Jose, thank you so much. And I'll put the links below, everyone, so you can get a hold of Jose if you need LinkedIn or his email.
Thank you, Dan. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you would like to see my interviews with expats that live all over the world, watch this playlist right here.